Welcome to episode number 8, número 8, Chavo del 8, right?
Quank, 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 quank.
You're not, you're not in your prime yet, or you're past. I don't know. We're gonna
We're
go back
thinking
to
about Prime.
Yeah, we're gonna see what happens.
It's not
Welcome
Amazon Prime.
to the daily closing today. Joining us again, we have Brianna Lorena. Good to have you again. It's just to confuse me, they decided to switch it up a little bit. And Lorena, welcome. Great to have you again. We gotta go right into a few issues because otherwise, yes, we got a couple of things to cover right now. I definitely want to start this conversation with guys. I'm sure everybody is buzzing about the comment that was made by Mr. Don Lemon. I was never too crazy about this guy. He's not a funny comedian. I don't even know how he's got it. He actually is supposed to be a comic.
I did not have that one thing he said funny. It's interesting how that works.
So it's kind of interesting that people that are supposed to make money out of what they say, you know what I mean, will sometimes have no problem saying some very stupid things. As you know, Nikki Haley officially running. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit of a fan. You know what I mean? I'm going to see. I know the lady leans very much into certain establishment areas, you know what I mean? The stuff that's going to give a lot of ammunition to Donald Trump to go after her for, but he's the former boss, you know what I mean? She was the...
That's what people say. It's so annoying. Why?
But, why? Because she's an independent person?
No, I'm just saying this. Like, you're running against your former boss.
Yes.
Like, is that the best thing that you can come up with?
I mean, it's the truth.
That's as demeaning as it gets, you know what I mean? And in politics, you want to remind you that it's not going to be clean, it's not going to be friendly, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to earn it, and you're going to have to fight for it, which to me is extremely healthy. So if that's the best they got, she's doing very well.
I guess.
Actually, they got more than that because this guy said, whoa, wait a minute. Whoa. I don't think it's a good idea that she's running for president. He said, I hate talking about people's, age and stuff like that. It's just a very uncomfortable conversation, he said. But she's no longer in her prime. Because according to Dan Lemon, you got to be 20, 30, maybe 40 years old to be in your prime.
Brianna, congratulations. You're fit to run the country.
We don't know exactly what it is. So, guys, can we talk about this prime concept? A woman prime period is based on, what are we talking about? She's running for president.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think he's talking about being on the prime for giving birth. So unless she's planning on giving birth to a country, I think she should be fine. Like, as far as being on her prime. I mean, how old is Nancy Pelosi?
120.
No, she's a relic, right?
Somewhere
she's 82
around
years old.
there. Somewhere
no, she's
around
82 years old.
She's 82
she's 82.
Yeah, and it's like you were just saying. When did what's her name? The lady that keeps on running for president.
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
The lady that keeps on running.
You know exactly what I was talking about.
Hillary Clinton.
Yes, I knew exactly it.
You got it.
She was actually
when she first ran.
61 years old when she ran the
61.
first time in 2008, and then she waited 2 other terms. So that means that she was 69 years old, about to be 70 the second time that she was
so how old
thinking
is
about running.
Nikki?
She's 51 years old.
She's 51.
Okay.
She's 2 years over her prime. What would
So
be
what is
considered
it?
her prime?
So
And to be honest,
49.
the whole prime conversation to me doesn't necessarily make sense because whether you're a male or female, there's different times of prime, right? So a female childbearing years, your prime is this from point A to point B, right? Politically, what is your prime years would depend on what you did politically. So it's like the conversation, like she's no longer in her prime. Well, prime for what? What are we measuring it by here? I was very confused by the statement because I'm like, wait, are we, as a woman as a whole, she's past her prime? Because as far as I was concerned, running for president, having a 51-year-old president today sounds like
awesome.
a young, like a baby. You're fresh and new and you're so young. So to have somebody say oh, she's past her prime, I think we're thinking about 2 different things here. We're not talking about
No, but he
the same
Googled
thing.
it. That's the thing. He said, when you look it up in Google.
President Trump in his 70s, President Biden about to become 80 years old, very close to becoming an 80-year-old potential president. The thing is that, so first of all, I don't even know where to start. The whole thing is, Is discrimination? Is it sexist? Is it where do you go with these things? And what I want to know is what if the comment would have been made by, I don't know, Sean Hannity about Hillary Clinton being past her prime, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Wearing
no,
her.
I would have broke loose for that.
If he would have made the comment about that, everybody would be like losing it. By the way, in all fairness, a lot of people also from the left called him out saying that was out of line. I don't line, and I don't mean, listen, you can say whatever you want to say, and it's good to know. I'm one of those guys that I love to hear what you're thinking, even if I don't agree with you.
Right.
But
no, but that was just
this is
stupid.
a real
Yeah.
poor comment
Yeah.
that was not meant to be funny. I mean, you look at the statement and you go like, wow, you really meant that.
Yeah,
you really
I
believe.
didn't think he was trying to be funny. Like,
Yeah.
just based on the setting he was in, I didn't find anything like...
By the way, did you see the reaction of the two ladies? They were like...
They were as
about to,
confused
like,
as I
jump
was.
them.
They
Yeah.
were like, I'm sorry, Prime? And then in the end, they tried to make it all come together.
No.
Still for the audience to be like, Prime? What is this guy talking about?
So I mean, obviously, there's different stages through life. You know what I mean? You're physically, you're gonna be able to do better things or bigger things if you obviously on your 20s. You know what I mean? You're gonna be more competitive, more sports driven. Your body is gonna be able to handle certain things just because you within that group. So that makes sense. When somebody say, hey, you may not be able to, but today though, when you're talking about 30s and 40s, what are we talking about? Still mental capacity?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sharp. As a matter of
Right.
fact,
I
you
would say
actually
better.
because
Right.
you have the accumulation
John Fetterman.
of life experience. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Well, you have life experience now. You have business experience. You have in her case, political experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 51 years old, former governor, former ambassador, I think that you have somebody who, if anything, is
Yeah, she's got a good
sharper
resume.
today
Right.
than has ever been to, by the way, let me remind you of somebody like JFK was 45, 46 years old when he was running for president
How old
also.
was Obama?
That's a great question. He was definitely also late 40s. He was
Yeah.
not in his
Yeah.
50s yet when he was right. He's I don't even know if it's late 40s, but he's definitely in his 40s when he's running for president. So whatever it was, 45, 46, right? You're talking about 5-6 years of difference
Right.
for somebody who, again, very youthful, very sharp. You have a lady, and like I said, you know what I mean? It's a
I
little
think
bit of...
politically speaking, this is what I would
This is
consider
the
a prime.
Yeah, for real.
Right. Now, if we're talking about professional athlete, no. 50s is not going to be, whether you're male or female, going to be your prime. But
Tennis? How about tennis?
No.
maybe. I don't know. Today, the world's a different place.
Are
But
you kidding me?
I'm saying, like, and politically speaking, I think she's definitely in her prime.
I'm trying to understand...
Mentally. Now, other things.
Obviously the
yet.
comment was not to be a compliment. You know what I mean?
Clearly.
The comment clearly is meant to make her look, hey, you're getting a little too old. But I don't understand from what planet that statement actually came from, because we have one of the oldest presidents in office right now, right? So if it's a man to female type of situation, right?
By the way, don't let me the guy that would be wearing I'm a feminist shirt.
Seriously.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't seem too good on his end.
It's just poor representation,
Yeah,
poor
it really
judgment
is.
all along, especially for somebody. But at least listen, you know that they're gonna be under heavy attack. They're gonna be attacked for everybody. As a matter of fact, I'm more concerned about some of the positions, right, that she will be taking, and I think it's worthwhile to discuss some of those things. But Don, I hope you get what you got coming to you, because that was a real stupid comment. That was definitely not one of your. Well, I'm sure, but you have a few, by the way. But this one was definitely not a good one, and it also shows, though. You know what I mean? The reason why people don't want to pay attention to those shows anymore. The reason why he had a show, main prime time
Past his
CNN.
prime time right
You know what I mean?
now.
That apparently you also passed your prime and
Yep,
you were
he
not able
lost
to.
it.
So lost it. You know what I mean? Listen, people don't want to hear these things anymore.
Right.
People already, but I mean, you're still gonna have a little bit of a fan base that no matter what, they absolutely enjoyed the negative comment. There's somebody who's extremely happy about anything bad that's being said against Trump, against Ron DeSantis, against Biden. There are people that really enjoyed that a lot more than people that were saying, what is the issue? What are we addressing here? What do we need to be concerned about? What do we need to be concerned about? Well, for me, guys, you know what I mean, opposed to being concerned about prime, or her age being the right age. And I think that we all agree that this is absolutely, if anything, perfect timing for somebody, you know what I mean,
Absolutely.
that doesn't have the additional responsibility of young children, mom, wife. I mean, there's so many positive things about this lady. However, there are some question marks about, some statements that she made about the border, or even some situations about legal immigrants being in some cases more patriotic than people that were actually born in the country. And a lot of people are running with that, right, as a way of criticizing. Now, I think we need to go a little deeper on that. The fact of the matter is that we always say the fish is the only guy who doesn't know he's surrounded by water, right?
Right.
It's true.
So a lot of people that were born into the country, who always had America, don't understand the perspective that comes from somebody that is coming from somewhere else, that wanted to, right, become a legal citizen of the country, go through the process of naturalization, right, being able to participate on every aspect of democracy, and truly constantly remind everybody how much of a blessing this country happens to be, how much they love the country. And that, I mean, for all of us, I mean, you are the only one that's actually born here, right? But you are the daughter of immigrants,
Yes.
right? And so, but also you've been surrounded your whole life from people
I
from other
think,
countries, other places.
to be honest, the conversation of legal immigrants being more patriotic, because I think their patriotism stems from respect. You know,
Gratitude.
the level, right, of gratefulness and respect and sacrifice that it actually takes to get here. You know, they don't come here for no reason or just because they feel like putting their family through that. It's really because, like, there's more levels of opportunities for them there. So they have that already getting here, like, foot on the soil, like, I respect this place. Like, I respect it wholeheartedly, as opposed to people that were born here. You're born into an already made system, and you're just really taught to follow the steps. You know, go to school, get good grades, you get a good job, like, you know. So there's really no respect given to you in that process except for follow the system.
Correct.
So,
Well, also, if I can add something here, and I don't know if we're gonna be talking about it later, but part of it is, in my opinion, has to do with the school system.
right.
You know, it's like the big majority of
So much
my
things wrong with the school
being,
system.
yeah, especially if you're tied to the public school system. You know, so many values and principles that I have come because I actually came into the country and I only did the last 2-3 years of high school here. You know, 2.5 actually, to be exact. And so, but whatever kids are being fed right now from the teachers in the school system, not all of the teachers, but a good chunk of the teachers, they're not necessarily the most patriotic and stuff like that.
No,
So
absolutely.
that's also something that is a concern, and it's something that when you come here, when you fight, when you like try to figure out what is the best way for you to be a part of this country, be a good citizen of this country, to be able to vote, to be able to, you know, like even contribute, you know, bring value. That's why, like, opening up a business is a no-brainer, because it's like,
Right.
if I can help the economy of the community around me, why not? So,
Correct.
which is something that, so I mean, maybe not the best way to say it, but it depends. It depends on the age. It depends on who you're talking to.
Right.
I think there's a few things that are taking place, because to be quite honest with you, I mean, first of all, it's a, yes, we can say lack of gratitude, right? But I think that also comes from a lack of perspective, right? Or even not having a sense of awareness. If you know where you stand, if you don't know what you were born into, if you don't know, if you're not paying attention to the amount of people that are just trying to cross the border, if you're not paying attention to people that are selling just about everything and anything because they found out that they got approved to actually come into the country, and without hesitation they said, are you kidding me? Let me sell everything. I'm going up there. I'm going to have a better life for a number of reasons, right? But you're talking about education system, and it's an education system that has been getting worse and worse and
Deteriorating,
worse, because now it's no longer education. Now we can label it indoctrination, right? So one of the things that unfortunately they're being taught is not to love America. As a matter of fact, not only not to love America, to not to dislike it, to see it as the bad guy of the movie. You know what I mean? To see it as the bad actor that is doing all kinds of bad things out there, opposed to saying, well, if anybody had to lead the world, right? Because you got to ask yourself the question, okay, if not us, who do you want us to replace us? All right, would you like to see Russian Federation leading
I'll pass.
You know, you like to see China to you know what I mean?
If you look at it, and I go back to immigration, is how many people are like risking their lives to get to what other
To be
countries?
able to get here.
And in a high percent, like it's not even close. The first country that everybody thinks when it comes to freedom, when it comes to opportunity, when it comes to you being able to have an overall better life is America. So we did that, you know. So yeah, that's where I stand with it.
So we have a new generation right now. You know that the Gen Zs, for the first time, we have another group that is going to potentially be larger than what the baby boomers were. And this group actually right now, and obviously baby boomers were like a big deal, right? Dominated the economy for so many years, 76 plus million people. They were born between 1946 and 1964, right? And so you have all that group of people that played an incredible factor when it came to the economy of the country.
11,000 babies a day.
Just imagine, right?
Sounds
Right?
genius.
It's just so
Explosion of
toys.
babies.
Obviously, toys, schools, you know what I mean, construction, housing, cars, you name it. They had an impact on every component of the economy. But here's the difference, though. They were coming back from a World War II experience. Their parents were very much American loving, you know what I mean, perspective. That's what
we're under attack.
Gen Zs today, you know what I mean, this is good. They right now have the lowest level of affection for America. So what do you do with that? What do you do with that? Because if you look at the average, everything is about victimhood, hate America, racism, systematic racism. I don't understand. Systematic this, systematic that. And so how do you where can they possibly go to get better perspectives?
To be honest, I think a lot of it is going to come from their, and I had said this in the last episode, of it's literally like doing your own research and finding people that might have a different narrative than what the rest of the world is saying, because you're exactly right. I mean, every time you pick up the phone, the thing that's being preached to these children the most is, what do you not have? What's not being handed to you? And why is it not this easy for you? And so they think that they're at a disadvantage. A lot of them believe they're at a disadvantage, and definitely being led by this whole transgender, gender neutral, you know, having this type of conversation with them, I think it's really trying to flood their minds from what the real problems of America are today. And in turn, you're raising a very weak generation. And to me, that's very scary.
Correct.
It is frightening, actually. If anything, the next leading generation is being led this way. What does that mean for their children's children? What does that mean for the future? Okay, this is the next biggest generation. Imagine the kids that are going to come from that. And it's like, you know, this is like the narrative that's speaking to them, and that's very scary. And nobody's correcting that.
People are very critical. People are very critical of what they call not only a global economy but a global perspective, right?
Right.
At the same time, people are very critical, and even more, I will say, more critical when people become too nationalistic, right? The whole America First philosophy, which is something that was clearly presented by Donald Trump, was something that was heavily criticized as taking a step backwards, opposed to becoming part of the global economy or global perspective. The problem is, if in order to love everybody else, you gotta hate where you come from.
Yeah, put your oxygen mask first.
I think you're missing the point, right?
Yeah.
The only reason why we have the ability to do that. But you've been listening to these conversations for a while now. Again, it's a question of where do we go? You know, you're almost past your prime. Yeah.
I'm at my prime still.
You're almost past your prime.
No, but I mean,
we'll take it outside after this.
Where to go from? I mean, listen, and I'm asking you this question from the following perspective: you were outside of the country, came into the country. You went immediately. You found different political perspectives, not just about, I mean, literally opposite philosophies when it comes to the perspective of the country and things like that. I think that at some point you were leaning more towards that idea of, maybe America's not that great, maybe victimhood, maybe, and then you go through a process of research, exposing yourself to other people that say, wait a minute, you know what I mean? What else is out there if it's not us? But your own perspective about
so
that.
For me, it was never America wasn't that great. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. We had a choice to be somewhere else. So that never entered the school system. When I was in school, that also happened only a couple of years ago. I'm just kidding. I just outed myself. But that was. I think that if I would have heard that while I was in school, it would have triggered a reaction way before it did. What happened with going through school, it was a lot of towards socialism, a lot of we're entitled to this. So there was a lot of entitlement mentality. It was a lot of victimhood mentality. So that was, when I was going to school, that was the thing that was being fed, there was, I cannot even begin to imagine, because they're throwing a whole lot of race in the whole equation, which that wasn't a conversation when I was going to school. So here is the way that I look at and what's going to happen with Gen Zs. I'm a little bit more optimistic, but it's going to get tough. It's going to get harder until it gets better. And here's the reason why. And it goes back to the whole tough times create tough people create good times. Good times create weak people create hard times. So at this very moment, we are in very good times. We have been in very good times for a really long time when you're talking about the economy, when you're talking about as a country. And just because even the amount of money that was put into place has made us survive a little bit longer in a better economy than we should have.
So let me stop you right there. So are you saying that right now we also have already a lot of weak people?
100%.
And where do you see that being expressed through? Like, are we talking about this whole transgender conversations? Are you talking about all this victimhood, systematic racism, or systematic poverty? Where do you see that being expressed? Because I have an opinion about some of the channels that you can already see how some of that is already being expressed.
Well, if you look at it, like, it's funny. I think somebody went and I watched a clip, and somebody asked somebody in Africa, like literally they asked, hey, what is going on with this? Like, what is a woman? And all of these different things. And they asked that question, and it was very clear. It's like, we're worried about food, shelter. Like, when you have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the first thing that is compromised is, where's my food going to be coming from? Am I going to be able to sleep safely? The concern is not, like, how am I feeling? Type of thing. I don't know if that makes any sense. So I'm not concerned about somebody looking bad at me because I'm an immigrant and I'm a woman and I'm a lesbian. Like, I'm like concerned about how am I gonna eat the next day. So I think because right now, this is gonna sound like, it's not that not a lot of people are concerned, but that's in America. Food is not necessarily like a big issue. You know what I mean?
If anything, we got too much of it.
Yeah.
If anything, I think everybody need to lay off some of this stuff.
No, but you know what I'm saying? It's not like in Africa. It's not so.
That's not our biggest concern.
It's
some of the things that we take for granted. You know what I mean? You walk into a place, electricity is available. Everybody's complaining if the AC is not running, or I mean, if you don't have the current, cell phone updated stuff like that. So
would you say that the new generation is definitely being led by more emotional matters?
Yeah, because
than
they don't
actual survival matters.
Yes,
and that in turn, will keep you in that emotional state. So, I mean, I think we're so wrapped up in these emotionally led conversations, things that are meant to put you in that victimhood mentality, that it's like, when you start spending so long thinking like that, which I think is actually what the point is what they're trying to do, is what they're trying to systemize this whole thing to feed the younger generation this, so they can think like a victim in these weak matters.
Well, let's bring it down to this politics.
Sorry, right now the victim, it has the opportunity to be fed because there's somewhere to be fed from.
Right.
The problem is when that runs out, then you have nowhere to look at.
It's worse than that. Let's bring it down to the whole issue of politics. Last episode, we literally broke down the content of the State of the Union speech that was given by President Biden and the answer by Governor Huckabee. Right? One was more factual, to the point, America first. We should be grateful. Phenomenal stuff. That was her response. Our president went hardcore emotional. I mean, he was literally talking about, you know what I mean, your overdraft fees from the bank. We gotta make sure they don't tell you when you fly and the airline is trying to overcharge you. I mean, my little, free points that I get from the coffee company. I mean, he went into everything, emotional. So I want to go back to. I remember seeing an interview of, at that time, was Senator Obama, right? And it's the first time that he's running for president. And he was asked a question about the Constitution. And he literally said, by the way, just to let you know, he is a Constitution attorney, right? So as a constitutional lawyer, he is somebody that knows the Constitution very well, right? So you will assume, right? And he said the problem with the Constitution is that it doesn't go far enough as to tell the Constitution or as to tell the government what to do for the people. When in fact, what makes the Constitution very special is what it tells the government is to leave the people alone, or what not to do to the people, right? So when politically we already went into this arena.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? We already went into this arena. With every politician that we have right now is telling you what they're going to do for you, opposed to saying, hey, how about a little bit of self-reliance and personal responsibility? If something is not working for you, the best thing you can do is not to hope and wait for somebody to fix it for you, is to either remove yourself from the situation, remove yourself from the location, or remove yourself and go somewhere else where things can actually get better. But if you don't do any of those things, then it's on you. It's not on anybody else. If things are not working out, at some point you got to say, okay, I got to make some changes. I can't. So
hello, you're in America. Something wasn't working out,
right,
and we're somewhere else.
So, so maybe this comment, where she was being criticized for suggesting that some immigrants are more patriotic than some Americans. Maybe there is something to that. Maybe some people, instead of getting so quickly offended, you need to be asking yourself the question, is there a possibility that there are some people that have come to this country that are dealing with the country in a way that they show more appreciation, more gratitude, just the fact that they see it as a blessing, not
more
as a challenge.
Eagerness to utilize the system that's given to them.
To be quite honest with you, my only concern that I have with her right now, again, is more some of the comments made about Ukraine, right? I don't know if you're familiar with some of the stuff.
Same,
You know what I mean? I think that we know for a fact. So let's break it down into who we believe is going to be part of this primary. It's possible that Ron DeSantis, obviously he hasn't made it official, it's possible that he's going to be running. And Nikki Haley will be running. To be quite honest with you, for me, on certain positions, he still is a big question mark.
Right, and we were talking about
I'm not quite clear about what his position would have been if he have to be the one dealing with how to handle Russia.
Right.
I know for a fact that Trump will not be suggesting, well, we got to win no matter what. But for him, that was a mistake. Getting in there was just a simple mistake. The second thing is that you're fighting a proxy war through Ukraine, opposed to going directly to Russia and saying, if you do that, right, it's going to be us directly that are going to do this, that, and the other, right? Including not removing a military option off the table. Because the problem is, you can be hesitant. Her idea right now is, said it's not so much about a blank check, right, which is essentially, unfortunately, what we have done. Somebody was making a comment about the current First Lady of Ukraine looking like she's done some
plastic
surgery. I don't know. Apparently, some money is not necessarily going to the right people or to the people who needs it, and that's the problem with a country. First of all, the country was labeled a corrupt country for so many years, so many times. It's not even funny that we still, approaching this whole perspective as if we're dealing with somebody that's 100% honest, on the table, and that everything. So we know there's a level of corruption that was happening before, Now we're sending billions and billions and billions of dollars. Her argument is that instead of just sending money, we need to send the equipment right now, guys. The issue that we have right now is that, so how far do you want to raise the bar? Because right now they're talking about sending tanks. Right now they're talking about sending F-16s. Right now they talk. So where do we stop? Because when you put in equipment in somebody else's territory, no different than what happened in Afghanistan, and we walked away from billions and billions of dollars of equipment that can potentially be used against our own soldiers, right? That always gets me a little nervous, right? So is that an approach that is even a valuable approach given the whole situation from what she's suggesting, which is like, let's send more equipment. We don't know what DeSantis is going to do. Trump is definitely saying, I would have approached this whole thing from a different perspective.
So what would have been Trump's approach?
It's got to be a direct. It cannot be by proxy. That's what makes this guy extremely, and that's what immediately I think she's going to be placing to the whole establishment, right? Which is what makes Trump somebody that everybody dislikes, but at the same time, what most people like about him, his superpower, as if you want to call it, is that he was outside of the establishment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that we know that he was doing to China that exposed China. There's a lot of stuff that he was doing, he would have done with Russia. Now that we know that a lot of the stuff, accusations that were labeled within that relationship was turned out to be nothing, or not what everybody suggested that it was. So what do you think is she going in the right direction by making comments like that?
So growing up, my dad said that you always kill a snake by the head. If you hit it anywhere else, the snake actually will survive. But if you kill it by the head, there's no way that thing is coming back. Makes sense? So whatever that means when it comes to this war, I'm not much of like a war person. I don't know what strategy, stuff like that. What I do know is that sending more money is not the solution. Now, sending equipment and stuff like that,
correct,
is still taking resources out of our country and putting it over there, and our country right now is in trouble. How much is that going to affect the economy? That I don't know. I will have to research it, but it's better than sending a blank check, which is what we've been doing for, how long has this been? Maybe 1 year, 1.5 years?
It is.
Before the year ended, before 2022 ended, the last time I checked it was $70 billion or something like that.
We're way past that.
Way past that. I don't even know how much money we have sent, but it's a lot of money, and we don't know where it's going to. I'm all for the lady getting surgery, but not from my tax dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
Pay for our own surgery.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Any takes on that?
To be honest, I think that she needs to have a stronger position, and the solution isn't always to help, as helpful as you want to be.
But mind you, the person who's talking is a former ambassador to the United Nations.
Right.
So she's very much a statesperson, right?
Right.
So is she just being, again, too much of a polished professional politician, and is taking a position that is not, because she was even asked the question, if China end up invading Taiwan, are we going to war with China? And she never said yes. She never even said, well, everything should be always on the table. Like, she didn't go that far.
Right. And to me, that is more of a presidential response that, like, if and that's why I understand people saying that her take on national policies such as this one is a weak take, because it doesn't give a clear view. It doesn't hold a clear position except to help our allies, and in turn makes America strong. America stays strong by putting America first sometimes, and she doesn't have a clear message about what that is, or position about what that means. So I mean, her response and what I've seen from her doesn't necessarily make me feel better, necessarily make me feel like we're going the right route with certain things with her. That is totally, I understand like her point of view with that. When it comes to who could possibly be her opposition candidate, Ron DeSantis, and we were having that conversation too. as great as a governor, is he ready to make certain calls when it comes to things like this that it takes as a president to make? You know, we're not, as a president, you don't come to the table being, let's all hold hands and have a unified government of world leaders. Like, that's not the point. That is not the ideal situation, to be honest. Because if one falls, then we all fall. We're not trying to have that. And so you have to take a strong position for America first, and then.
But guys, you know, let me make this very clear. That I will say that I know for a fact that the best puncher is Trump. Like this is a guy that will come out swinging.
But why is he the best puncher? Why you say he was the best puncher?
Because
he's not scared to throw
He's
a
not
punch.
playing by the same rules, right? And he's willing to say. The problem is that there are certain things that sometimes you're not supposed to say because you are supposed to be a little bit of a statesman,
right.
Especially when you become the president. You can't
Right.
just say certain things. You know what I mean? No different than even current President Biden making certain statements that you go like, wait a minute, for how long? For as long as it takes to, we're gonna be there for as long as it takes. What do you mean for as long as it takes? Can we have like an exit strategy
Right.
for this whole thing so that we know how we're coming out of it? Oh no, we're gonna be there for like, no, the next president will probably make it. Here's what I want you to keep perspective, right? There are certain things that are happening right now that most people don't see them in a positive light. There are absolutely very good things.
So
The fact that you're waking up in the morning right now and you're seeing balloons being shot
that's
down.
not a good thing.
Right.
But then
I
what
think it's a
happened with-
phenomenal thing, and I'm going to tell you why it's a phenomenal
do you
thing.
think it's
I'm
a
gonna
good thing?
let me make my case, right? So, for a while, a few people started to say, "Hey, be careful with TikTok, right? If the actual app is literally saying." We have here, read it. We're gonna have access to everything in your cell phone, and anything that makes contact has access to like that was there. That disclaimer was. By the way, there was a lot of people saying that nobody was paying attention. I like to believe that our own center of intelligence, right, or our own intelligence community, is looking at these things, and maybe in some of them, it's not that they just being cut off guard. Some of them they will, but that they doing something about it. So now, for the first time, we officially said certain areas of government can no longer have the app on their cell phone anymore.
Right.
Right? That eventually can become a mainstream for everybody in America. You're not able to
TikTok's
have
gonna
it,
be
right?
banned, yeah, at some point.
Second, there's a lot of equipment that we have that hasn't been tested in a real war-like environment. And once in a while, you got to be put in a position where all of your intelligence tools and all of your actual equipment have to be tested. And you don't want to be testing, equipment
right.
at a
Same
time.
time, right.
Exactly. So for me, there's a lot of things that are happening right now that is. It gives an opportunity for the intelligence community and for the actual armed forces to say, let's test their readiness to react in certain ways. So I don't
It's like
think
a
it's
fire
necessarily
drill?
about that. Yeah.
It's
I
like,
think-
hello,
I think
fire.
that it is a simple comparison, but I think it's a very way to understand.
So, okay. Here's where I'm at. Since you're saying that what is it, the best puncture? That's very fancy. I don't know what that means. I'm very simple. Okay. But here's the way that I say. We wouldn't have balloons flying in the sky had Trump been in government. What do you
But
think?
according to them, we had a few that
We had
nobody
a few.
detected. The problem is that there really is no way to,
How?
and again, a political.
So somebody told us, they were
now
lying
they're
to
saying
us?
after the fact that prior to nobody knew, nobody mentioned, but now that we know, is no different. Listen, here's the scary part, right?
Well, we have been in Ukraine.
When we start playing, I don't think so. I don't think.
Like, you think Putin would've
I don't think
pushed?
the same way that what happened in Crimea happened during the Obama administration, not during the Trump administration. Guys, whether we like it or not, this is the only president that we had where we
No
were
wars.
part of 0 wars, not one, right? So there is something about maybe they were saying this guy might be crazy for real, and he might be
We
pushing
need
a
a
button
little
here and there.
crazy.
But the fact of the matter is that things were done differently, were processed differently. I don't think we wouldn't have those situations. I'm more concerned about a president that comes in front of everybody right now, right? And again, you're talking about the political gamemanship, right? is so bad that it comes out and say, we know that the other three things we took down were not from China. They go, oh, okay, so what was
else
it?
is spying
Well,
on
we don't
us?
know what it was. Like, what do you mean? If you don't
Joe
know
Rogan
which
believes
one
aliens.
is it? If you don't know what it was, how do you know that it's not from China?
Right.
Look at what the whole idea that they want to disqualify that
told
it's
them.
being. You know, the
They
fact
call
of the
president,
matter
"Yo,
is
Mr. China.
and it is an insult to people that are paying attention to what's going on with it, to just come out and like say something. So let's assume that, by the way, let's assume they said, well, it was probably a commercial, something that was more friendly to more in business or industrial than anything that deals with being inspired. Well, have you heard with companies saying, what happened to my balloon? Has anybody seen my balloon? Is that one of my guests? So it just doesn't make any sense. It's an insult to even the average person, though. You know what I mean? I just don't.
I
don't
think
get
we're at a point. I saw Joe Rogan post something where it's like, they said they officially ruled out that it's aliens, and then Joe Rogan put, you know what? I actually think it's aliens. And it's just
And
like,
put it on
it's
what
at
it
that
is.
point where it's like, nobody, you're not going to get a straight answer. You're really not. And as unfortunate as it is, it's like the very thing that they're being like, no, it's not that. It's like, wait a second, let me look into this a little bit more, And we're joking about it, but that's been the narrative for the past few years, how things have been handled with society in general, how they're communicating with everybody. So, I mean, to just factor it out and say that it's not China, come on, really? Like, seriously, that would be the first people that I would think that it is. Absolutely. Like, their whole mantra and their mission with the U.S. is information.
We are their
Correct.
Really, like, they're trying
They
to,
wanna
like,
take us out.
literally, by information.
But you do know that not everybody believes that.
Who doesn't believe
in
that?
this
You would
country,
be
in
surprised.
this country, people just
Well, no, I mean,
refuse
I'm
to
just
believe
talking. Okay, like,
that there's a lot of people outside of the borders of this country that all they do is go to bed and wake up in the morning saying, how do we take the USA out? How do we take the U.S. out? How do we make sure they are no longer like there are people they don't understand. There are people who are saying, how do we blow that building up?
Right.
How do we make sure that we don't get cut? How do we make sure that we can make like there are people that don't understand that outside of this border, there's a lot of people that absolutely want to.
so who are these people though? Is it like?
Yeah, well,
But I'd be concerned if some of these people are running our country right now.
some of them are. Some of them are, and some of them.
I don't know. To say that some of the people that are in office that don't really believe that China is like that much of a threat, maybe that's what they preach to the public. But I really don't even see how you even hold a position in office and really don't take that as seriously as what it is. Maybe you don't want to cause any alarms, but really, like, no, we don't need to worry about China. Come on. Are you serious?
Well, I mean, let's if you want me to highlight a little bit how dirty and heartless politics and politicians can get. Do you guys remember John Fetterman running for Senate for the Senate in Pennsylvania?
In Pennsylvania, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So the man was
Against Dr. Oz.
against Dr. Oz. Everybody figured that was not even going to be a contest. In addition to that, this man had a stroke. So,
Yeah,
while he was running.
Mhm. Yeah.
while he was running, there was a lot of question as to whether or not this was a good idea for the people, for the state, for the Senate, but even for him and his family,
Mhm.
right? So, because of the whole health issue, potential risk, right?
Right.
Well, they pushed
Cleared
in,
him.
grabbed, you know what I mean? He was
Right.
doing debates with a laptop in front of him because somebody was giving him the answer.
teleprompter.
All of that, even Dr. Oz was gracious enough to say, I'm okay with all of those things. You know, even with that, he stumbled a
Yeah,
lot,
he
and in
struggled.
many occasions he struggled. It's a man that was not well, you know what I mean? So
Right,
finally,
recovering from a stroke.
but of course he
Was
ended up.
past his prime.
Well, he probably was, but in this case, we're gonna see that based on.
Honestly, even if you're in
in
your
a
prime, a
health-
stroke will sure as
You
hell
know
take
what
you
I mean?
out
It's
of
like
it.
it just
So
changes the equation. But my point to you is, so at some point there's a group of people that decided that regardless of the consequences that was going to take place against the state of Pennsylvania, against the Senate, and against his own family, they say, you know what, it's okay to put this man through this process as long as we get that senator.
Right.
You know, that we would have been 51-49. The only reason why we are 50-50 right now, with Vice President Harris being able to break the tie vote because this was one of those crucial elections. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the man right now, you know, first was checked in saying that he wasn't feeling well. Now it's finally disclosed that, you know, he's going through some level of deep depression. And in addition to, it's not to play this game at this level is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
So it was a talking about a disservice to the state, to the Senate, to the whole country, but also to his family, though. You know what I mean? It's like as much as, I mean, he's got some good-looking children. His wife has been supported throughout the whole process. You gotta look at your father, you know what I mean, in a very public way, go through struggles that are meant to be private struggles. You know what I mean? They're not meant to be things happening in front of everybody. To me, that is, when we're talking about how ugly can it actually get when we're having these conversations, to me, that is the ultimate example that politics is probably one of the dirtiest games to play out there.
I mean, but also remember, like, you know, to get to the point where you're in clinical depression, there's levels to depression, right? Okay, this is where my psych degree is gonna kick in. Okay, there's
it's happening.
Yeah.
Let's see it. Get ready,
so
please.
There's different levels to depression. You don't just become clinically depressed. You know, maybe it's a situation that could trigger it, the stroke. You know, you no longer, strokes usually leave people no longer functioning the same. The way you communicate is not the same. The way you move is not the same. And so if you're living that go type of life and now you feel very handicapped, it can put you in a place where after a certain period of time your situational depression stops becoming situational, it starts becoming clinical. And to be honest, for him to get to the point where he says, you know, I need to be checked in for that, usually clinical depression is like connected to leading thoughts of suicide, more severely so, you know, like things like that. And so I think politics was always that game, but getting hurt in the way that he did, or what he went through, just made him like more prone to that. I don't necessarily think like politics has changed or become more dirty. I think that he changed and could no longer handle the game of what politics is, and that's what put him in that place.
I think that there's another component, though. You know, the running for something, it's a very intense activity. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially running for election. So when you surrounded by that many people that are constantly saying you're gonna be okay, don't worry about it. It's the whole idea that if you walk in the journey with a lot of good company or a lot of company, I don't know if it's good or
Right.
bad, it feels good, you know what I mean? But when everybody, this is the best way that I can describe it to you is what happens in a funeral, right?
Yep.
Everybody shows up, everybody supports, everybody's praying with you, everybody wants to make sure that everybody has something to eat, everybody's helping. Let me bring the chairs, let me
And
bring
then a
this, let me
week
bring,
goes by.
and then after that, everybody goes home.
Yep.
I think that something like that is what happened
And
to
you have
this
to
man.
be
Right.
home alone.
And now he had to
Yeah.
say, okay, what am I doing here?
Right.
Right.
And those are tough conversations to have. They can lead in any direction. Listen, I am not politically a supporter of his position. A lot of stuff that he said, I just don't support. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I really hope and pray for the benefit of his family, especially, that he recovers and that he recovers well. And I do hope that maybe he will just make the choice to say, I think I should go home. You know what I mean? If he's able to function to the best of his capacity, I think he's got to give it a try because he's in it already. So try to get it to work, try to make it happen. I don't want to discourage that, but maybe at the end, the best choice is to say, guys, I want to go spend some time with my family. Then let me pack it
Well,
in.
I mean, depression is not a joke. It's like a very serious thing to deal with. And it sucks, as you're saying, that he's having to deal with this on a very public.
Yeah.
My question, the thing that I'm wondering right now is, okay, so let's say, because this is it was very clear while he was running that he wasn't necessarily the most fit to be able to
Correct.
fill the role.
Right.
And the biggest concern that like everybody was talking about that was against him, I mean, at the beginning it was a little bit of a joke because it was to watch him stumble and fumble, you know. But now as we're at this level, and like the biggest concern is, okay, so is he gonna be able to fulfill his role? So let's say, hoping that he is, but it was clear that he wasn't.
Let's get the same
What-
doctor.
what
so
happens-
Joe Biden can do it.
Oh my God. Don't- so
But-
what happens now though? Like, let's say,
Well-
you know what, I want to go home, I'm not fit, or
Special
or,
election.
or the depression thing that says, like, for real, the doctor says now, you know what, we can't.
Yeah.
Like, we
Yeah.
cannot hold on to this seat for that long, regardless of the seat. It's a person, it's a human being that's going
Correct.
through
Correct.
an illness or a situation, whatever you want to call it, that is not good. So what happens? There's a special election,
I
and
believe
then
it
what are
becomes a
say?
case of a special election. You know what I mean? That is set at a specific time. Then there's some people will get the chance to run. I think that this time around, even if he was running against John again, or if he was running against anybody else, I think that Dr. Oz is going to have a better chance. I think that we have seen a lot of things from the administration, from the Senate, that is giving a lot of people a lot of buyer's remorse. You know what I mean? So I
This
think
is not
that
even
that's-
2 months in.
yeah, and but again, you know what I mean, is already something that has become very quickly very challenging. Listen, I will tell you what my biggest issue with this was. I watched him a couple of times showing up in front of a group of people, and again, accompanied by another group of people, right? So his handlers, if you want to say it. And then you have somebody standing, like groups of people standing in front of him, right? I was not troubled or bothered about the struggles, right? Just to watch, and if anything, I'm saying, okay, man, try to get, like, I can't even tell you how many times I'm like, just get through it. Just see if you can say something, right? I tell you who I really, really dislike and who I really have a lot of trouble with. The people that were pretending, standing in front of him, that he was okay. The people that were moving him from one place to place saying, you looking good. You're doing a phenomenal job. Don't worry about it. Those people are
not here
really,
around
really not good people. You know what I mean? Because,
Yeah, but at the same time, that's what they're hired to do.
well,
That's
sadly enough,
That's literally what their job is.
Yeah.
I mean, for a doctor, the recommendation is going to be, the proper doctor. The recommendation in depression is, all right, let's try to eliminate what's triggering this, right? That's going to be the recommendation. What do you think the rest of the company is going to come and say? Like, no, that's not it. He's just very overwhelmed. It's due to the stroke. This is more situational. This is not as severe as we might think. That's literally what their job is to do, to try to push them along through it.
So it is the job. Should they be exposed?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Because even if it is your job, though, you know what I mean? If your job right now is being, we're going to hire you so you can literally either lie to people or just saying we're going to hire you to do that. Shouldn't you at some point be exposed for some of the things that really went wrong?
Absolutely, but at the end of the day, he did agree to it. So it's like,
Did he?
he was sitting there for as long as he was, right?
The problem is,
For me, there's got to be accountability. It's like somebody
There
signed up
absolutely
for
can
something
be
that,
accountability, but you have to remember at the end of the day, he went along with it. That is like, if I'm going along with this, that's me saying that I'm okay with this.
but
Okay,
the whole
okay.
argument has been based on really knowing of not knowing exactly what he was agreeing to do.
So let me put it this way. Like, if my arm hurts,
Right.
and my doctor says your arm needs to be chopped off,
Right.
and my arm hurts, I'm gonna chop off maybe I'll look for like 2 or 3 different
Yeah.
doctors. You know what I mean?
Let me,
But this
shout this
guy
out.
was being told, hey, you're fine, you should be
Yeah.
able to handle it, you're gonna be okay, this is just a situational process or whatever.
Right.
So I said, if you're told that, you're saying, all right, well, I just gotta shake it off and continue and power through it, you know?
Well,
So
that's the
it's-
thing, though. Like, one thing that has to be understood is that after a stroke, he could have been okay. Really, everybody responds differently depending on the severity of the stroke.
Totally.
People bounce back differently, and maybe his reaction was just so severe, and after going through this process, it actually did hit him like, I can't actually keep up with this. Like, I can't do this anymore.
Guys, I'm gonna tell you, if you really saw him performing multiple times, you will have no choice but to come to a conclusion that the whole thing was extremely shameful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's my point. My point is, like I said, I hope he feels better.
I 1,000% I agree with
and
that,
stuff
by the
like
way.
that. To touch upon a few things that are happening outside of the country. Peru's still a mess. It's an incredible mess going on. Things are not getting better there. And but I wanted to address something that's happening closer to us. The last time we spoke about the situation with Nicaragua. So what you have right now is a guy that got elected, by the way, in a legitimate way, right? Went through elections, you know what I mean? People can actually say he's been making attempts to change the Constitution, and also wanted to name his wife president or co-president, something to that effect. It just so last week we reported that over 222 people were already put in a plane to be literally deported out of their own country. And so far officially we know that about 94 people were stripped of their citizenship.
Wow.
Which, just think about that for a second,
yeah.
right? Like you like, I understand if you're that guy that just crossed the border, right, and it's hiding somewhere. They pick you up, they say, hey, this is where they take you to the plane, and they say, we're sending you back to your country. That, like, by the way, that happens every day. But that's a different situation. You were born there. This is not even I became naturalized. You know what I mean? I was born here, right? This is you being born in the United States. Somebody knocks on your door, and doesn't even tell you where you're going. And you may not be as ready as you were today. This is pre-shower, right? Pre-shower, right? They just go grab you, bring you to the airport. Right before boarding the plane, they force you to sign a document stating that you are renouncing your citizenship, and they're gonna send you somewhere else.
Yeah.
That just happened to a number of people coming out of Nicaragua. The worst situation that we got going on, though, is connected to a bishop, Bishop Ronaldo Alvarez. He refused to get on the plane, and what that means is that he was actually sentenced as a traitor to the country. He's been again
For what?
for actions again committed against the government and the country, and he's been accused of treason. You know what I mean? And so he was given 26 years. By the way, guys, So a bishop, even if there is a cardinal somewhere in that country, a bishop is the legal administrator of a sequence of churches, properties, projects, missions. I mean, this is a guy that's actually running a significant size economy there that is connected to the Catholic Church, right? This is not a small guy. This is not a lightweight. This man, there are pictures and images of him kneeling down on the ground with people holding weapons when he's being arrested. This is a public, embarrassing situation that's taking place for a man that, at best, all he has done is help people, serve God, right? Serve the Catholic Church, and he's being accused, and his worst action just criticizing the abuses that are taking place inside of the country. So
that's considered treason.
For the first time, our current Pope Francis ended up making a statement criticizing, by the way, a little too gentle and also a little too late. It's got to be a more forceful position when it comes to, and I think that something like this can actually really take down a government, right? Because you're going to have a lot of people that can get involved saying this is not okay. This is absolutely not okay, right? And I hope that he's set free as soon as possible. I hope the hierarchy of the Catholic Church will get involved to make sure that these things are taking place. I hope the United States is also going to stand for, again, religious liberty and religious freedom, and they will not allow for these things to happen. I hope that nothing happens to his life. But that takes me into something that is becoming news by the minute, right? Pope Francis is alluding again to the possibility of stepping down.
Again, so
yeah.
he's done it before?
So there was a comment probably about 6-8 months ago. This has been a very controversial pope. You know, this is a pope that maybe that is the case for all of them, right? That are loved by some people and that I hate by some people. But the controversy with him is that he's so not connected to the orthodoxy of the Catholic Church that it almost feels like this is and somebody used the term, a non-Catholic pope, right?
Oh, wow.
So
that's a very
that's
crazy statement to say, yes.
I understand. But the problem is that it appears that a new tradition is being introduced into the Catholic Church. The last pope that we had, who just recently passed away, which is Benedict XVI, advocated his papacy. He literally resigned. He got in front of the College of Cardinals and saying, I am not physically in the condition to carry the responsibilities that are connected with the seat of Peter, and so I'm going to step down. Right? There was a lot of confusion when that happened. A lot of people said, oh, the last time that we had a pope that stepped down was in 1425, 1415. There was a pope. There's a couple of them, by the way. At that time, there was a real mess internally. There's like 3 anti-popes, right? You have, and the term anti-pope is utilized when people are claiming that there is a pope that may not be a legitimate pope. Mm-hmm. So because you cannot not have a pope, right? Somewhere, somehow, an election took place, but that doesn't mean that is a pope. It could be an anti-pope because there are some deficiencies to that election. So to allow legitimate continuity, some people have to be disqualified. And if you go through history, you'll see that in multiple times that term is used. So at some point, there are 3 popes. Obviously, Benedict XVI was pope from 2005 all the way up to 2013. By the way, a good man, heavily criticized for so many things. That he inherited the scandal about the children, the child abuse situation that was taking place within the church. But again, he was not pope when a lot of these things were actually taking place. Accused of allowing a lot of things to happen. Heavily criticized for a number of reasons, but in general, I will tell you, it was a good pope. Actually, married to certain traditions, or more traditional than some other people. But around that time, 1406 to 1415, which is Gregory the 12th, which they making that reference that the last pope that actually resigned wasn't even that pope. It was Alexander the Fifth was only there for 10 months. At some point, the papacy was outside of Rome and was taken to Avignon, France, for a number of reasons. We're not going to get into that right now. All I'm telling you is that eventually, one by one, these guys were actually disqualified until the next election. But the last time that we actually had a real resignation, meaning some of these things were forced, was actually a pope called Celestine V, right? Celestine V, that he was and also again a very short papacy. Prior to his election, 27 months went by. You see the elections now. It takes about a week, takes a few 3, 4, 5 days. Worst case scenario today, an election takes about 10 days, right, to happen. 27 months went by, and they still didn't have a pope. People got very uncomfortable. This man was a hermit. A hermit essentially is a monk that lives I'm in a cave somewhere, right? But he was also known as usually a pope is either a bishop or today more than likely a cardinal. That you got to be part of the College of Cardinal officially today to be elected pope. This man was just a priest, was not even so he was chosen because he was a so-called holy man, right? A good man. Definitely not qualified to be a pope, right? 5 months into it, he realized, I'm not the guy to do this job. So he resigned, 5 months later. That was the last time we had a real resignation, and that happened in the year 1294. Here we are, year 2022. So that means 823 years later, basically, right? We have another pope, right? But this time the difference, though, is back to back.
Yeah.
Using that language. And so here's the significance of this. Popes are expected to last,
till they pass.
Yeah.
to be there until they die.
Right.
Right? And as a matter of fact, for anybody that wants to know a little bit about the story of the Pope who quit, it's a very detailed historical account. How did it happen? What was taking place? And that will give you an idea about that person. But he absolutely managed to anger a few people for doing that, including our very good friend Dante Alighieri, which is one of the reasons why we have a little pet named Dante. Right? My daughter decided that she was going to name Dante, but it was absolutely after Dante Alighieri. And in the book, The Divine Comedy, which we have here right now, in the section of Inferno or Hell, he actually makes a reference about Celestine V, because, and he's very critical about what he says about him is that he essentially quit something. He was a coward, literally calls him a coward, for quitting what is meant to be a lifetime responsibility and for walking away from a holy responsibility. So he didn't hold back criticizing this Pope the same way that a lot of people didn't hold back criticizing Benedict XVI. But the only reason why I'm mentioning this, because this is something that can potentially change how popes are chosen, and it can become an official way of, I'm gonna run up until this point. If I don't feel that I'm physically, you can see Pope Francis in a wheelchair, right? If he gets to a point of saying, I am not physically capable anymore, somebody else has to come in and finish the job. But that puts a lot of theological questions, or introduces a lot of theological questions about who. There was literally, during the time that Benedict XVI was alive, there was a lot of people arguing that he was the true pope, just because you cannot renounce it. Even this guy who gave it away, once it's imposed and given to you. There is an image, there's an interesting image of Benedict XVI before resigning, before stepping down. He actually visited the tomb of Celestine V, which is the Pope that resigned, almost hinting, and he took the pallium. The pallium is, you're going to see something that is around, it's almost like a very specific, cardinals use it, but in his case, that symbolizes the authority of the Pope. That's what gives him, among many of those symbols, that's one of the symbols that Benedict XVI, as a matter of fact, switched it from black, which all cardinals will use it as black, to red, symbolizing the blood of Christ, right? And then he took it off and left it on the tomb of, there's an image. So, is all the symbolism that is always connected to those things was there. But it is a big deal, though. It is a big deal. It is a big deal in the sense that some people are actually looking forward to that. They do want him to step down.
Are you? Because I know that you have some reservations about.
If I have a choice of him.
How do you feel about him stepping down? Are you like, oh my God, thank God? Or would you be like, okay?
I don't get to the point of saying thank God, because I remember somebody saying something to me that I'm trying to keep it. I approach these things, and I'm trying to keep it from that perspective. I remember not being too happy about. We were having a conversation about the Borgias. That's Alexander the Sixth, as a matter of fact, and this is like one of the most scandalous papacies that everybody saw the Borgias, right?
Yeah,
you saw that. You get a glimpse of what that papacy was.
Any of that show is true.
Well, sadly enough, I will tell you about 85% of the show was actually truth. And crazy. So, and the characters, the names, the accuracy of those things, So I was having a conversation with this nun, and I was being very critical of, why was this able to stand within something that is supposed to be holy. And her answer was, you know, God said Christ will give us the hope that we need at that time for a specific reason. So I don't want to say that I am definitely happy about or crazy, happy about the possibility, but I will definitely like to see him step down. I think that he has done a lot of damage to the church precisely because his own positions are not as clear, you know what I mean? And he has managed to introduce a lot of confusion. I would like to see us returning to a more conservative perspective from the liturgy, the liturgy's practice, meaning the Mass, all the way up to some of our positions right now are too ambiguous, and that's not good for anybody. So I would love to see that taking place. I'm not wishing for the man to die. I think that if he's thinking about stepping down, that will give the opportunity. Now, here's what you got to keep in mind. Every pope will get the chance to name cardinals. So in many ways, you do have something to do with the next guy that's going to come after you, right? So depending on the length of the papacy, right? John Paul II was one of the longest popes reigning, you know what I mean? And so he named just about every cardinal that was in the College of Cardinal that was able to get elected. And so he essentially, Benedict XVI, he was the one who made him a cardinal, right? He also made, by the way, Cardinal Bergoglio, who today is Pope Francis, was also made cardinal by John Paul II. But the generational cardinals that came through John Paul II pretty much already passed away. They're already too old to participate. There's an age limit. I don't know why we don't have that in our country for elections, but there's an age limit on how you can participate. Benedict XVI also named a number of group of people, but also Pope Francis right now name a significant group. As a matter of fact, made the College of Cardinal even a little larger, including people, a lot more people from Latin America, from Africa, from Asia. And so don't be surprised if we don't see another Italian pope for a long time. You know what I mean? And don't be surprised if the next pope is still very much leaning towards that liberal perspective than we see. So we don't know. We don't know what this whole thing is going to go, but more conversations. But there's a lot of implications for the church. You know what I mean? If that's going to be the model, the church is already going through a significant crisis. So only God knows what this whole thing is going to go. But I think it's time to step down. You grew up under which pope was the most? Because I grew up under John Paul II. I would say Paul VI was passed away. Let's see if he becomes 1978. So I'm like 9 years old. For anybody who wants to do the math, why did I do
I was gonna
that?
say, we're gonna do that math right now.
So
Throw yourself under the bus.
no. But anyway, that's okay.
Past your prime.
Past my prime, apparently. So
I think right now the like you were saying before, there has been a lot of mixed messages and lack of strength when it comes to like position the Catholic Church should take on certain things, whether it's coming to the Mass, the liturgy, or it's coming to social issues or how we address certain things, and in turn has become or left the door open for more things to be acceptable to Catholics, and it's just leaving the as a whole, Catholics very confused. And that's definitely been an issue that has become clearer and clearer. And you can see the strength of the Catholic Church just becoming weaker and weaker. And that's actually very sad to me because there was a time when it was like such strength to the church and it was so beautiful and so traditional. And we grew up that way, So to see now that becoming the new norm, especially like a time, I think now more than ever is the time that the Catholic Church needs to have a stronger position, and to see them kind of like be so on certain subjects or more understanding to things has really allowed for people to become more confused. So for me, And that was my same thing when we found out that he was gonna step down. That was my question. I'm like, wait a second. I thought this was like a position you were basically supposed to like live out the rest of your life in, and it's like I didn't know you could like step down and let me take a break from this type thing. So it doesn't show a position of strength to me. And but if it's time for a new face, then maybe it is time for a new face.
I think it's always.
I just hope it gets better than it's.
That's the problem. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a real box of chocolates. Any comments on this one?
So for me, I practice jujitsu, and in jujitsu, anytime you hesitate on a position, you actually get hurt. Like literally, if you do a technique properly because you didn't commit, because you weren't strong about where you were supposed to be standing, you actually like literally have like serious injuries and also can die. And for me, anywhere where there's not necessarily a position of strength, especially when it comes to the church, I'm not very close to the church at all, but I do know that I do have strong values and principles because I grew up. I went to an all-girl Catholic school for many years, so that is, you need those strong values and principles, and people need guidance, and so the fact that the Pope is wishy-washy, I don't know that's a good thing.
Well, I will tell you, even from a financial perspective, right, if we're talking about economy and we're talking about always...
one of his guys is in jail. That's a problem. That's you can't be wishy-washy about that. That's how you get hurt.
And so that's what I'm saying. But when I go back to the economy, my biggest concern is that you have a church that went from being a church for the poor to a church that is almost promoting poverty.
Whoa!
And that's really so bad. That is really not a good idea. It is a great idea to always stand for the poor, to support the poor. As a matter of fact, that's what made it a very unique relationship. Again, I made a reference about St. Vincent de Paul before. Within the Catholic Church, that was the original Robin Hood, right? As the guy that went to people that had a lot of money, did not call them bad names, if anything, he just convinced them that it was a good idea, being that God bless you with so much, to actually help some other people without making them feel guilty, without making them feel that they were bad about it. Like just that attraction to say our responsibility is to do something for. I don't mean fix all the problems, but if you have devotee. So if you look at some of the biggest monasteries, any of the biggest buildings, any of the land donations, that was somebody that actually had a lot of money, who believed that the work that the Catholic Church was doing was so significant that say, here, I'm going to give it to you. You guys do something with it. Before there was actually any government structures, from schools to roads to hospitals to... It was the church that was actually building all these places. So I look at the Catholic Church with a great deal of love and respect, and I just want to see us getting... I made a video a while ago that had something to do with what was going on at the very beginning of Ukraine and Russia, and I highlighted, right, the strength is being projected by the patriarch of Russia. Especially if you're putting next to a Pope Francis. You put these two guys and you're saying, who do you think is the guy that's running things here? Without hesitation, you will go for the patriarch of Russia. This man is projecting strength, and that's the reason why they are also attracting a lot of people. If this messy war didn't happen, I will tell you they have a very big saying. They were at this point already making the claim, we are the new Rome. You know what I mean? So, and so a lot of issues out there, believe it or not, even in this environment. I'm trying to see how to separate some information so that we can put it out there, but I wanted to bring it to this conversation because this really is a big deal that's going to have a lot of impact. So, but anyway, with that being said, guys, just to close it out a little bit, obviously new candidates are going to come out. Ron DeSantis is doing just about everything and anything to either wait at the last minute or to literally decide. I'm going to be very honest with you. A lot of people say, well, he already wrote a book. That's what everybody does. You write the book because you're going to be running. Right? Like if it's almost like the pre-confirmation.
He wrote a book?
Right. Yeah. Like there's a new book from Ron DeSantis. I mean, it's already out there. It's already out there. They say there's a prerequisite for anybody who's running. And then, but my point to you is, with this guy, we have obviously two options. He says, you know what, I'm going to sit it out and let Trump go do what he's going to do with whoever, right? Because what everybody's saying is that there will be a lot of, he can become damaged goods as a future candidate if Trump does what Trump does with everybody else, right?
Right.
What he was not successful to do with Biden, because Biden was already all
Damaged
crazy
goods.
hiding. Yeah, how do you damage goods, right?
Right.
And so,
Makes
but you know, DeSantis has taken big organizations, big political issues, from education to Disney to, this is a guy that knows how to punch back.
Right.
I was having this conversation just a couple of days ago, even with Patrick, right? I said, Pat, I understand when you're saying Trump is a guy that will fight a fight in a way that, but this guy knows how to fight back. This is not and by the way, so far, if you look into what has taken place with all of these situations, not only that he fought back, he came out winning or with some real. So this is not a lightweight. This is not a guy that I will take.
So can I ask you though? I agree. By the way, I agree with that. But is it because fighting with, for example, a lot of people make a decision who they're gonna vote for based on they put them in front of a debate, and fighting against Disney or whatever it is not necessarily a debate type of thing. There's time to process, there's time to do this. You know, when you look at him in the debate for when he was doing running for governor again, even though he obliterated the other guy, you could see him a little fussy against Charlie Crist. You know, when he would poke him a little bit, and he was like fussy. In a way that it's like, why are you letting this guy get under your skin type of thing? You know, so when you look at it, for me, when I look at him from a candidate perspective, I don't know how he's going to react to Trump poking him. Maybe like in media and stuff like that, he'll be able to handle it well. How he'll do it in a debate, that's to be seen. That's one of the things that I'm looking at.
Politically speaking, if you look at the history of politics, Nikki Haley can probably be a better debater than Trump and a better debater than Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, she kicks sideways. She doesn't kick. What is it? She kicks front. She doesn't kick sideways.
Except for the fact that when you, I think that by today we already established a difference between going to watch a debate and watching a show. Every debate that was coming up, people went there not to see Donald Trump debate. They wanted to see a show. Let's see who is he dragging to the mount today. It was a WWE situation, and he wanted to see what the heck was going to happen.
Yeah, I showed up with my popcorn and all.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a biggest difference. If we were voting today, I'm not saying that you have to disclose your real position, right? But if you were voting today, and it was between Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump. Give me your order of if you have a choice.
Oh God.
Talking about coming out of the closet.
Yeah, I have to come out of the closet, I guess.
Yeah. By the way, talking about closet.
I'm so curious what your order is.
What is your current affiliation registration? Can we address that for a second?
You want to address that?
I definitely want to address that. Yes.
I am a official registered Democrat.
Oh my God.
I knew it.
Yes. My text messages are a lot of fun right now because I get text messages for both and I get fundraising for both. I kind of like it that way because I have the opportunity to see both sides of the aisle. And from this show, it's very clear where I stand.
If anybody would like to become a co-host moving forward, you know what I mean? This whole
we're taking applications.
Registered Democrat. So, what would be the order for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you have no choice. That's what we're
I have no choice.
And you know that more people are going to be jumping in. We're gonna do this exercise every time a new person comes in.
Anytime. Yeah. Looking at how the country, how the state behaved. And just based on that, based on track record, I'll put DeSantis first.
Okay.
I hate to lose him from the state of Florida, because I don't know who would come in to handle Florida. So that's a concern for me. But I think that, the guy, even though we're not very clear about the positions that he has, whatever decisions that he has made in Florida, I actually like what he has done. Second, I think I kind of like this lady. It's refreshing. She's young. Even though apparently, according to Mr. Lemon, she's past her prime.
Ladies, if you pass,
I'm like, stop it! Don't say that.
It's all over. I don't know
Don't
how to tell
say
you
that. That's how you get in trouble. I think it's exciting. I think she has a little bit enough. She's run the state. I guess she did a decent job, and she's been out internationally. Also, which we haven't seen DeSantis on an international basis, so I think her resume is a little more robust. And then, look, I think Trump will have we wouldn't have a lot of the stuff happening right now. It's just that he's so polarizing that as much as I know how good he would be, as far as policies specifically, he's harmful to the country, because then everybody, it's very good for all of the media channels, but it's not very good for us, because then we get more and more and more divided. And so, I that's not a healthy thing. So,
what you got?
For me, to be honest, same. I would probably put Ron DeSantis first. I think he did a very good job. When it comes to what he did with the state of Florida, he took very strong positions, whether it was liked or not liked, for the better of the state, and is still taking precautions when it comes to helping us, from protecting us as a state from a lot of these other Democratic-like views coming and hurting our state. And it would be sad to see him go, but I think he would do really well at a national level. I don't think I'm going to put Nikki second, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think I would actually put Trump second, and that's simply
what's your
because,
hesitation with her?
Well, to be honest, I think maybe at another point in time she would have been a great candidate. Maybe it's not her prime at this moment. I'm not saying she's past her prime. I'm saying maybe she's just not there yet. I think what we need as a country is going to require a lot more of a stronger position on certain things, and some of it might turn off.
She's a woman?
It's not because she's a woman. It's because the stance that she takes on certain views is this very United Nations, let's hold hands, we need to be there for everybody, and I get it, but it's not going to help. And based on where we're at as a country, I don't think that that's going to help us at this very current point in time. Maybe somewhere down the line she can see fit in that position, but at this current point in time, I don't think that she's ready for that.
So do you see her more as a vice president material?
Absolutely. She would be a beautiful vice president. I would love to see that.
I don't know where to go with that comment. Not the most capable vice president.
She would be an excellent vice president, and this has nothing to do with woman or man. I'm just saying, based on what I've seen on her stance on certain things, as a country, we need a little bit more firm. And her position is not.
Bunch of people that are immediately said, "Great job, Nikki Haley! You just launched your campaign to become a VP." Like literally, that's what everybody's saying.
That would have been an easy, but to be honest, I respect her for going wholeheartedly and wanting to take that control, especially to me, the beautiful young age of 51 years old. I think that's a great position to start in, because it does set her up for what could be, later. I don't think that her time is now. So that's exactly why I would probably put her last. I would put Trump second and then put her last.
Well,
what about you?
It's funny because I think, if anything, my argument is that if there was ever a time where it would be proper for a Nikki Haley, and I'm talking about the first, female president, especially being a Republican president, going in supported as a candidate, because what we're gonna need is somebody that's gonna shake things up, regardless, and it's got to happen at an internal level. And I think that he's very savvy to navigate a lot of things. that I think that was
But
one
do you
of
think that
the
we can
deficiencies.
afford to be shooken up to a certain extent right
Yeah,
now?
well, that was the benefit to Trump. You know what I mean? That he came in and shook things up. The problem is that
But
he
in
knew how
turn provided stability.
he knew how to argue. But that's where I'm going with my point, right? That he knew how to argue from the outside, but once he was in it, he didn't have enough coalitions. He didn't have enough of the right people. He didn't have enough. So he had to force a lot of it. And look at it. Have you ever seen a sitting president that while he's a sitting president, I mean, the only thing that I can go back to was that, I mean, in my lifetime, by the way, in my lifetime, right? What happened to Bill Clinton, just a few years. What happened to Bill, I was very young, I remember. Right, Bill Clinton, right? The whole scandal that he had with Monica Lewinsky, that I remember telling people, in my country, if you're the president, and you don't have like 6 girlfriends on the side, there's a problem with you, right? It's absolutely expected for you to be. I said, why are they attacking?
Sound very patriotic.
But
okay.
okay, so let me get. I got past that, right? Then I'm saying, okay, you don't like Bill Clinton as a person, but you still got to respect the office of the presidency, right? So to me, there's only so much you can do. Donald Trump, I understand that some people hate this man, don't like it, but be careful. Because he's not just Donald Trump. At that point, he became somebody who's representing the United States in the office of the presidency. And you got to be very careful when you're willing to cross that line. Do I agree with Joe Biden? I agree with Joe Biden probably 9% of some of the things, that maybe even less than that. But I do not forget what he represents.
Right now.
Listen, I saw the poor man falling off the bicycle the first day, and I can feel there's like a painful moment in my heart, just because it's not just that, it's almost like you're seeing a grandfather, you know what I mean, falling off the bicycle. But then I'm saying, everybody, my God, this man cannot even have those private moments, because everybody has those, ridiculous moments. But what he represents to go through that public embarrassment, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of people then would criticize the presidency, when in reality what you needed to criticize was the president, right? And so I think that the timing could be right for somebody who has a lot of experience, female.
So you're putting Nikki Haley first? He is.
I will say it.
He is.
I will say it.
Come out of the closet.
With everything that I just said right now, is that I would still put Donald Trump first.
Donald Trump. Okay. All right.
I would put Nikki second.
Wow.
And Ron DeSantis.
So did we all three just have totally different orders
Completely
right now?
ordered. I believe so.
Yeah, we did.
I believe so.
No,
We did.
And I will tell you why I would put Donald
Make sure
Trump.
you guys put in the comments.
what?
Yeah, what's your order?
Yeah.
that you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
But let me tell you why I would put Donald Trump first, just a little bit, and then we can close this up. Donald Trump, guys, what everybody was distracted about,
He was addressing
a lot of
certain issues.
the mean tweets that he was putting out there,
He fixed that
and the
issue.
other side, handling China, handling a lot of the taxes, pro business, pro this, pro the other. And there was a lot of good things that were happening. What a lot of people were distracted. Right now, we're distracted with balloons.
Right.
By the
Sky.
way, there's like a whole Chernobyl happening in Ohio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? There's like a whole lot of stuff happening.
That we didn't even get a chance to touch.
to
and
address that.
We might do like an emergency video at some point just to get an update. But anyway, guys, as we have more people coming into it,
Wait,
right?
hold
We're
on.
gonna have more
Hold
people
on.
coming into it.
Wait a second.
So, 'cause
we
I
need
was
to
gonna-
finish your order.
Uh-huh.
You said Donald Trump first
Yeah, Nikki Haley.
and
And Ron
DeSantis.
DeSantis.
Okay.
I think that Ron DeSantis.
Why not DeSantis?
I think that Ron DeSantis it's a phenomenal governor, and I think he will be a phenomenal president. When you think about the incredible amount of people that are migrating from other places to the state of Florida, you need a clear sequence of actions have to be taking place to handle and to house that many people, right? But you also got to have a clear philosophy. And here you have somebody who made it very clear there are certain things that if you're going to come into the state, we are not going to be okay with it. And you're not going to have them available. Stuff that was maybe available you were. And you have to be introduced into that as soon as possible, because what makes the state a place where everybody wants to come to is precisely.
So your concern
I
is
have
the same
a
as mine. I don't want to lose the guy.
Yeah, but
You know what?
it's
I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
Who do you think needs Ron DeSantis more, the state of Florida or the country as a whole?
Florida.
The state of Florida.
Out here.
No. No, listen. Let me be very clear. I think he can be a phenomenal president.
Right.
And I hope he runs.
We can't lose the state.
I hope he runs. I just think that right now.
I think the country needs him more, guys. I really don't.
Listen.
I don't want to lose the guy. It's not that I'm ready to give him up. It's not like I'm trying to do the sacrifice. Yeah. But I think the country does need him more. And I think, to be honest, if there's a time for, like, right now that I'm saying this is not Nikki's time, this is DeSantis' time, okay? This is his peak to do that. Like, if he's going to do it, I think...
Is that because he's a man, or is that...
It's not because he's a man. It's where he's at in his political career, that I believe that right now is the time for him to do it. She hasn't accomplished the kind of things that DeSantis has accomplished.
What are you talking about? She was able to move jobs into her state. She literally, as a matter of fact,
right, and it's because the Republican,
44 years
before DeSantis was actually doing some of the things that DeSantis is doing here right now. She managed to do in a place that is more bluish than reddish. You know what I mean?
South Carolina right now is a very red state. It's a very red. I mean, already the demographic, if anything, is, and to be honest, a lot of like the argument is that she was even elected because of the amount of racism that's in South Carolina, and her opponent was.
Yeah, but that's
right.
Another.
But that's besides the point. I totally get it, but that's what I'm. Yeah, right.
Did
my research. Okay.
Racial guilt.
Right. Pretty much.
I mean, it's
that was.
Let's put the brown person
argument
in there, so that the person, so all
but
the white
you know
people
what?
can
At the
feel
same
better.
time,
I'm
I'm not discrediting what she's accomplished. What I'm saying is that DeSantis has accomplished it in a much faster, smoother way.
If this was the first time,
and literally has stood up. She was literally hired by Trump. DeSantis has stood up to Trump. Okay, and I don't know that I'm gonna say that.
I don't know that he stood up to Trump.
He absolutely has taken positions that have opposed Trump. They haven't always been friendly.
So has Nikki.
And then got hired by him.
Yeah, but she's called them
she's
out.
Capable.
Based on a favor he did to get her hired.
If it's not because of Trump, DeSantis is not
at some point you either work or you collaborate with your competition because there are good ideas and good things to do. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
But if this was the first time Trump was running, she's 1,000 times more qualified. The fact that the only reason why I'm saying Trump first is because knowing what he knows now, my only concern, right, and I was saying that to Patrick also, my only concern is he doesn't have the same team that he went in with, right? Not even his daughter is going in with him, right? So that really concerns me because she was a phenomenal balance in front of, right? So
she really was.
The second thing is that,
she was more like the first lady than the first lady, to be honest.
Truly. And I don't want to say that he was damaged goods, though, but he got to the point where it almost feels like he's damaged goods.
He was corrupted goods. I wouldn't know if I'd call him damaged.
I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't. But I do believe that he will have the capability to come in and fix a lot of the damage that has been done by the current administration. And a lot of the international issues will be handled in a different way if he was president. And the only thing that I will agree on is the speed of the solution, right? That he will be able to probably introduce a solution that would be faster than anybody else that has been part of the political establishment, and she has been. So has Ron DeSantis, because Ron DeSantis is like, he's Trump-like, but he's also more of a statesman, right? And so that's what everybody's looking for. Nobody's looking for a Mitt Romney anymore. Mitt Romney, we're done with you. We don't want to go through that. We need somebody who's going to have a clear position, who's going to support the country, that's going to help us become proud of the country. I would like to see that happening. I would like to see whoever is the next president to come in with a real desire to balance out, to have some respect for the flag, to have some love for the flag, national anthem, prayer. Listen, right now, and I'm only saying some because right now we have none.
Right?
At least none that is being supported by our own current government, right? I think that. But with that being said, guys, the list is going to potentially get bigger. But we truly believe that there's going to be a lot more people is going to come in, and they're going to throw.
DeSantis probably won't be a part of this equation.
So who knows? Who knows? Maybe at the end he'll himself will say, you know what, I'm not running. Let the guy knock himself out. You know what I mean? And that would be, by the way, it's not in their nature, right? You look at this guy. This guy's a fighter, right? It's not in his nature, but it would be a very good political move to say, you guys do a little dance on the mud, and then I'll come in for my next round. You know what I mean? And I think that would be perfect timing.
And again, once we have all the candidates, we can revisit this conversation.
We're gonna revisit this conversation, and we're gonna see.
I stand by my list. So
for all we know,
I'm gonna stand by.
For all we know, Kamala Harris decides to become a Republican.
Let's not.
And she's got. That would be your opportunity to exercise your Democrat status registration. So, with that being said, everybody, please comment, subscribe. What's your order, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want to know.
I want to know what your list is, guys.
By the way, add some names in there.
Yeah, literally. And
by the way, who would you like to see running? I mean, if everybody has a number of people that they would like to see running, and some people that you don't want to see running, let us know who do you think it would be a great president. Until the next one, just make sure please pass it around, subscribe. Let everybody know that we're having these conversations right now. Hopefully it's something that will give you some value, some information, some level of entertainment, and we're definitely looking forward to advancing this conversation. Always great being with you. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Lorena. We'll see you next.
Deuces.
Thank you.